Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is the 7th film in the Mission Impossible franchise, once again directed by Christopher McQuarrie. This was probably my most anticipated film for the rest of the year, or at least one of them. The Mission Impossible franchise means so much to me. The first film that I really anticipated reviewing ever was Mission Impossible Followed. I actually reviewed all the Mission Impossible films that came before that on this channel back in 2018, but all those videos are private, and now I saw this film tonight at a early access fan screening. Same thing happened for the Batman last year, but they gave us posters and pins, so that was pretty cool. But as I said, this was a movie that I was beyond excited for. Fallout is one of my favorite films of all time, and I love every single Mission Impossible film except for number 2, so I was really excited here. Obviously, I knew there was going to be a bunch of huge stunts in this movie, and they knocked it out of the park once again. This is part 1 of Dead Reckoning, and always going into a part 1 of a movie could be seen as frustrating, I guess, but not for this movie. Same thing happened with Across the Spider-Verse. That's what really happens when you have a great film that, even though it's a part 1, it stands alone on its own, and that's what this film does. There is a very clear objective in this movie, and sometimes some of the side characters, because we have a lot introduced here, are a little bit confusing of what they're doing, but as the film progresses towards the end, you're like, oh, I understand. But there's one character in particular, I won't say who it is, but I was very confused of what this character was doing in the movie and who this person was working for and what their objective was, but mostly everybody else's were amazing. There were some nice familiar stuff. There was obviously crazy stunts, which I will talk about later, but the basis of the story is find the key, find the key's twin, or whatever you want to call it, or else there's a lot of bad shit that's going to go on. And yeah, it's Mission Impossible, so you know it's going to be pretty crazy, and the stakes just get higher and higher and higher. And once again, it's worked out so well here. Christopher McQuarrie has such a beautiful way of directing these films to the point where you can really tell which ones are his. But this one felt like it had some nice callbacks to like the original, definitely more angles that were like Dutch angle and stuff like that, not like a clear rip off of that or anything, but this film is so like deep and like intimate and personal, and you can really feel it in the way that it's shot, whereas the last 2 movies had lots of mediums and wides, whereas this one, especially in conversation, they pull really tight into people and you feel it. There's a lot of very heavy stuff that goes on in this film, and lots of hard decisions and lots of stuff that's being brought up from the past, and it's felt through this film. And what I love and have always loved about Christopher McQuarrie's movies especially is the lack of music in the action sequences, because it keeps it realistic. And knowing that Tom Cruise and all these people actually did basically everything seen here is another thing that's amazing. And the way it's shot to where you clearly see it's them, it really just adds a whole other level of realism to the film. I mean, yeah, there's some crazy shit that wouldn't happen in real life, but you can suspend your belief a little bit for a Mission Impossible film. But speaking of Tom Cruise, his performance here is once again excellent. I've always loved him as Ethan Hunt. He's the face of the franchise. You can't have Mission Impossible, at least the movies, without Ethan Hunt or Tom Cruise. But also, we have some amazing supporting characters. Hayley Atwell is one of the many new characters introduced, and she was also fantastic here. You're really interested in her character and what she's after, why she's here, what she's doing, all that basic stuff that you've come to expect here, but still they make these new characters interesting. And there's a bunch of other ones that I want to talk about, but I won't mention in this video because it could lead to spoilers or suggest stuff that you might be able to be like, oh, I connect this and this without seeing the movie. But of course, all the returning people like Ving Rhames or Simon Pegg or Rebecca Ferguson, they're all amazing and I love them here. There's clear standout moments for each one of them, which I really appreciate with the characters. My one complaint that I kind of mentioned earlier is that there's sometimes, because there's so many characters here and so many people after one thing, and they're all who's working with who, who's against who, all that type of stuff, it does get a little bit confusing for certain characters, only a few, where it's like, what are you doing here? Are you working for them? Are you working for them? Are you trying to get this? Like, just stuff like that, that maybe even on a second watch would clear it up for me. But still, this film is full of some of the craziest action sequences I've ever seen. It is like 2 hours and 40 or 45 minutes, and it does not feel that length at all. I was at the edge of my seat the entire time. There are so many moments with Mission Impossible films where it's like, this is a clear standout, this is a clear standout, this is a clear standout. But for this one, it wasn't only the action sequences. That's because we've developed such amazing characters so far that we can build on them in different ways that you maybe wouldn't expect, or you'd be like, oh, it's the 7th movie of the franchise. Why are we just mentioning this now? But still, it works, and everyone who just took part in this movie should be proud of themselves. It is really fantastic. One of the best Mission Impossible films for sure. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is a deeply intimate and layered film, but it also manages to provide some more of the craziest action sequences ever. Tom Cruise and his team have beaten themselves once again. I'm going to give Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 a 4.5 out of 5. Well, now I am beyond excited for the next part here, but still, this film feels satisfying in and of itself. I loved it. I will definitely be trying to go and see this again in the theater. This is one of my favorites from the year, one of my favorites from the franchise, which is impressive because I love, as I said earlier, every single film except number 2. Number 2 is not great. I will be ranking these soon. I might have some other videos talking about it because these films really do mean a lot to me. And it's one of those things I feel like so many people say, oh, Mission Impossible this, Mission Impossible that, but like they really, when I think of them and when I watch them again, because I binged them all in 2 days before this one, well, 2.5 days before this one, they remind me of the start of the channel and why I love movies so much. And like, even seeing it, I'm just like, I don't know how they do that. A lot of the time when I watch movies, or when I bet a lot of you watch movies, you're like, okay, I understand how they did that. This one, not at all. But if you've seen it, let me know what you think of it down below. What is your favorite Mission Impossible film? And thank you all for watching. I will see you guys next time. Over and out.